Hello, this is Kevin. As always, I would like for you to please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notifications bell, and seriously, we will go from here. Yes, I do all kinds of videos, but what I would certainly like to do is to sometimes share some history. You don't always want to be comical. Current events. Current events is very easy, but in order to understand where we go as a people, we have to also understand where we come from. And this was a kind of an interesting day because, like I was saying, how it relates to the talks of the people, who have the problem with the 13th Amendment. Let me explain something to you. On this day in 1866, Texas legislative authorities uh, authorizes the leasing of state prisoners to build railroads and work on other projects to profit the state treasury. 3 days previous to that, on the 9th, it authorized counties to employ jail inmates in public works to lease them to the private employers, with all profits going to county treasuries. Um, Thus, the birth of the prison industrial complex, and also, in a way, going back to putting blacks into slavery. Now, there were two things. Now, you had the 13th Amendment and you had the Black Codes of Texas. Let's go through what the 13th Amendment says first. Um, and then we'll go to the Black Codes and you'll have a better understanding of why exactly these men were doing this. Uh, Aside from the whole slavery, racism, 3/5 rule, 3-tier caste system. This is just a number of things. But let's explain the 13th Amendment. And it states, this is Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Okay, basically saying that, okay, there's no more slavery except for when you break the law and go to prison. That's that trapdoor they were talking about. And Section 2 states, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Notice the key words, legislation. Yes, you notice in the background there's a picture of a governing body of men. That was the Senate of the 11th legislature. In Texas, this was the governing body of men who decided all of these things. And, notice one thing about the men. Yeah, just go ahead and just throw that out there for you. Well, they had to do something after the abolishing of slavery. Just side note, this was also after the assassination of the President Abraham Lincoln. Unfortunately, his successor, Andrew Johnson, was quite the prick. Now, allow me to show you the Black Codes of Texas. These were codes that came after the abolition of slavery to preserve some of the ways, so to speak. Let me show you this. Well, for anyone that didn't know this, there were a set of black codes for just about every state, um, especially mostly the states that made up the Confederate States of America before they lost the war. And talk about lazy people. I will always think the laziest fucker in history are slave masters. Smart but very fucking lazy. And they were pretty bitter after slavery was abolished. So each one of the states have their own set of black codes to base if we're gonna get it, basically saying we're gonna get it one way or another. Okay, y'all want to be free? Okay, whatever. But let me read these bullet points here. It says Black Codes in Texas, 1866. Texas state legislature enacted this set of laws to dictate black economic progress. Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. Let me read you some of this bullshit. That's exactly what it was. Um, they had a contract labor law, and this was a binding agreement. If you could be thrown into prison, and that was meant for black people. Could be thrown in prison and sent to work for the state if they refused to work. Refusing to work meaning that these guys were so low down they would deny employment anyway. But they'll call it refused. They used to give different meanings to a lot of things. Here's an interesting one. Blacks prohibited from interracial mixture. That you would say more so meant that if you were black, you couldn't, I would say, freely take yourself upon white. But, white, of course, nothing would happen to a white man if he did anything with a black woman, against her will or not. Let's just put it that way, which was the sickening part. Also, if a white woman took a black man upon herself, and she was caught by her husband, she can just simply say that he raped me, and guess what? The next thing you know, he's hanging in the middle of a forest somewhere. So yeah, that was just made for blacks. Could not hold another bullet point. Could not hold public office. Yeah. Why would you want to give any advantages by giving them a public office? Yeah, they did everything they could to suppress you after slavery. I think I'd already said that. And a bullet point, could not serve on juries or bear witness against a white person, because 9.5 times out of 10, when one of those violent, rapey white boys would do something to someone, then there would be a bunch of blacks around witnessing it. And there was nothing they could do because those white boys were protected. And to put it quite simple, they could lie and said somebody else, one of the black people did it or something. It was ridiculous. Yeah, that whole time was ridiculous, though. And of course, could not vote. Yeah, like I said, they didn't want you in the decision-making power to help their situation, so they made ridiculous fucking laws. Let me read this bullet point right here. The social conditions for blacks greatly deteriorated under Throckmorton and presidential Reconstruction. The Throckmorton that they're talking about is the James Webb Throckmorton, who served as the governor of Texas from 1866 through 1867, in the early days of the Reconstruction. And he also served as a congressman from 1875 to 1879. presidential reconstruction was implemented by the president, de facto president, Andrew Johnson. Once again, the guy who became president after Lincoln's assassination, who he was, from what I hear, he presented himself one way. And then when Lincoln was assassinated, he made this 180 and became a bastard, basically. Um, Presidential Reconstruction was a plan implemented by him, um, giving the white South a free hand in the transition from slavery. And also was meant to keep blacks out of any political office. Just giving the whites, putting the white South in charge of what happens after slavery. And again, I must go back to the black codes being used. What a tumultuous time for our people post slavery. Uh, what a lot of people don't understand is that when slavery was abolished, a lot of problems did not end, and a bunch of new problems began. This was the beginning, in my view, as the systemic breakdown of our people and suppressing us and keeping us down enough to where we would never gain any kind of power or influence because there was this great big ass fear, and I feel like that fear still exists today. If black people actually got it together, is that we would somehow turn on them and get our revenge. And that right there only lets me know that they know what they did was wrong. Um, but anyway, this is just this is just kind of to let that this day in history had some significance. And hopefully, I was able to inform you on something that, you didn't know about, or you might have been taught about it at one point, but you completely forgot. But, these things are kept out of the narrative quite often in not social, mainstream media. How many television programs that you might have seen besides some History Channel special on Texas Reconstruction, because November in 1866 was real big on that. And this has everything to do with how the ruling class got a leg up on us. But hey, it's 2018. There's things that we can do today to make our lives better that we don't even realize. So, anyway, if you watch this video, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. And as always, I ask you to please subscribe. Please hit that like button, and I will come back to you hopefully real soon with some more Black history. All right. Take care and be safe.